Hello and welcome to ADHD Support Talk Radio. My name is Tara McGillicuddy and I am the host of ADHD Support Talk Radio. I'm also an adult ADD and ADHD productivity coach and the founder and director of ADDclasses.com. And at ADDclasses.com, we provide virtual support and education to people affected by ADD and ADHD. We offer free monthly webinars. We have an extensive ADD audio library with more than 175 courses. And we also offer more in-depth support programs. You can learn more about ADDclasses.com and sign up for a free webinar by going to the website www.addclasses.com. And with that, I would like to welcome back Bonnie Mincu to ADHD Support Talk Radio. In just a moment, we're going to be talking about your organizing profile when you have ADHD. But before we get started talking about the topic, Bonnie, can you let our listeners know a little bit about yourself and how to get in touch with you after today's show?
Okay. Well, my name is Bonnie Mincu. It's spelled M-I-N-C-U with a hard C. I was a corporate person for over 23 years. I was an executive coach and a trainer and a redesign consultant, and I decided to go off and do that on my own, and it kind of fell apart, and that's how I found out in my mid-40s that I had ADD, to my great surprise. And since then, I have been really dedicating my career to coaching and training people with ADD. My website is thrivewithadd.com. That's Thrive, Thrive with ADD.com. And what I would like to talk with you about today is a model or a way of thinking about organizing and the difficulties that we have in organizing. And I came up with this because I am knee-deep right now in creating a membership-based course, well, really a much more extensive training program for people with ADD that will be available online. And I got to the whole section on organizing and started really thinking it through in a way of teaching it that I've never really thought through before. So I have for a long time taught my method in clearing clutter, which is an ADD-friendly clutter clearing method, but I hadn't really thought about the nature of organizing as a whole. And as I started to think about it, I thought about all the different clients I've had over the years and how some of them I could just tell were innately organized, and I would tell them that and they thought I was crazy because they felt like a disorganized mess, because their home may have been a disorganized mess. They had no system for organizing their information online or their files. But I could tell in talking to them that they craved organization, and all they needed was someone to show them how to pull things together or to give them a system. And they would just follow it and love it. And then there are all the other clients I had who I would say are more of a disorganized nature. They didn't think in an organized way. They didn't think about organization. They could live in total chaos and not care. And they often wouldn't notice how much time they were wasting looking for things. So sometimes they might say, for whatever reason, I'm so much slower than other people in doing a particular thing. Then when we started getting into it, we'd see it's because they spent an hour looking for what they needed before they could even start, and that's what made them slower. And so I started, in my thinking, dividing up the difference between somebody's nature and, for a better word, I guess I'll say their brain. So one can have an organized nature where you really crave organization, but a disorganized brain, and that your brain isn't allowing you to think through how to organize yourself. Or you could be the opposite. So you could have a brain that's very good at coming up with systems and organizing, but by nature you're kind of a slob. I'm going to throw myself into that category. So I can live in total chaos and not notice it. But if you ask me intellectually to come up with a system, I could do it very easily. And, of course, do it for my clients very easily. And so you can have somebody who is organized in both their nature and their brain, and I guess there are a few ADD people like that. They're not a whole lot, but a few. They don't even need to hear this topic unless they're interested. They don't have an organizing problem. And then you have many people that are disorganized by nature and in their brain. And those might be more artistic types of people. I sort of affectionately refer to them as sort of the happy slobs. So they're not organized and they don't really care. unless suddenly they have to be, and then they're in trouble, because they not only don't know how to organize themselves, but they're not even accustomed to worrying about it. So most of the people I work with, I would say as a coach and maybe in training people with ADD, are in, if you think of a 4-quadrant model, would be the quadrants in the middle, so quadrant 2 and quadrant 3 in this model, and I've developed an infographic that shows this. So here you've got the people that need, the more like me, they're kind of sloppy, but they can come up with systems. What people like me need for my solutions more than anything are rituals that I can develop into habits that I'll really stick with. So it's not so much a solution of teaching me how, it's getting me to do it and to stick with it. And then the people that are the flip opposite, who are organized by nature, but their brain can't figure out how, or their brain gets overwhelmed at it. What they really need is a customized step-by-step system that they can follow, that they really relate to personally. And once they have that, those kinds of people are really good.
Yep.
And they might need a little bit of habit forming as well, but they're more inclined to stay with the habit once they have the system that works for them. Because they're really
interesting. I'm
motivated.
like, who am I? And I'm like, I think I'm more like you. And it's funny, growing up, I had undiagnosed ADHD, and cleaning my room was like a huge chore.
Oh, me too. My God. Oh, impossible.
And my mother just thought I was being defiant, and she'd come into my room, and this would drive her crazy. My CDs or tapes would be in alphabetical order. And when my room was like somewhat cleaned or I organized my clothes would be hanging up in my closet color-coded by like rainbow order. And my mother used to just be like, well, you care about your CDs and tapes and your music. That's why you organize that. But it was because there was a system that that I knew. Alphabetizing was a system, somebody else's system that I could follow, and it made sense to me. So, the fact that you brought that up, I'm like, wow. Because I've had people tell me I'm organized with my business, and I'm like, no, I don't think so. But there's obviously systems that I found that work for me. But it's frustrating. It's interesting that you brought this up, that there's 2 different types, because I never really thought about this, but this makes perfect sense to me. When there's a system that I relate to and I can use, I can be very organized. When I'm not, I trip over things and get overwhelmed and frustrated and all the other stuff.
All right, so to determine is your nature organized or not, how frustrated do you get? Do you feel a lot of shame? Do you really care deeply when you're not organized?
For me in general, no. But when other people are involved, it's like, oh, I should be organized.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we can get embarrassed just like anybody else.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm more towards my nature not being organized. No, because it's like it doesn't bother me until it's like, oh, okay, until I'm
until there's social embarrassment or
it's bothering me because it's so bad. But I don't know. But sometimes I do crave organization. I think with me it might depend on, I don't know. That's a hard one. It might depend
on the situation. Well, I can tell you this. I can live in a real mess, but when I'm about to have company for Thanksgiving, I really do wish I could wave a wand and get rid of the mess. People, if you imagine a continuum, of course, people can be anywhere along that continuum. So you can have 2 people in, let's say, quadrant 2, but one is more extreme than the other, or one might be more towards the middle than the other. But you sound to me, I would put you probably more in the quadrant 2. The people who suffer the most are the ones in quadrant 3. Those are the ones that have an organized nature, that really crave it, and really internally feel a lot of shame that they aren't able to have it, to achieve it, because they care so much. And so then we sometimes have the shame aspect to deal with in addition to the organization. And it can be a challenge for them to let go of the shame enough to simply kind of be a willing student and learn a system without having the shame keep coming up and saying, oh, but you're such an idiot, you should know this, you should have been able to figure this out. And no, they can't. They can't figure it out because their brain isn't cooperating with their nature there.
I would imagine with this group, these are the ones when they find the right system and they use it and they learn the skills and get the right support. I would imagine these are the ones who have the most life-changing experiences and thrive the most when they find that ideal system and the ideal tools.
Absolutely. You're right. These are the ones that are golden.
Mm-hmm.
So you give them, it's like giving them the golden ticket. If you give somebody with an organized nature the right system and they, embrace it, so it's one they can really use and relate to. Because, with ADD, we can't just take a system out of a book. We usually need to have it customized somewhat so that we can relate to it. But give them the right system that they can relate to, and, their life can really change. Their career can take off. Their home life is suddenly all different and much better. So it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And so thinking about those kinds of people when I've had them made me realize that just their whole nature is different from the ones that kind of couldn't care less about organizing, except the world expects it of them.
Yes.
Yeah. Also ones that struggle are we'll say the happy-go-lucky people who have never really cared a whole lot about organization. So suddenly something might happen in their life. Maybe they're suddenly have a new partner, or someone, they get married, or they're living with someone who's very organized. Or maybe if it is an artist, suddenly they have to organize a show and have to come up with a price list and have really buttoned up materials and meet deadlines. And that can be really, really hard for them if they've never had to worry about it before. But they don't have the shame so much, I think.
But that's got to be hard when you've been able to live your life one way and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, it's like, okay, now you kind of have to be organized and you don't really know how to do it. So, I've never really heard anyone talk about it this way or look at it that way. And I think knowing or understanding, being mindful that you have a different type of organizing profile, or you may have your own unique organizing profile, is going to be life-changing to people who are listening right now.
Yeah. Well, especially the ones that fall into the quadrant 3. Mm-hmm. So I've created an infographic that people can look at and sort of help figure out which quadrant they're in. Mm-hmm. It's at thrivewithadd.com/organizing profile. Organizing profile is all one word.
Mm-hmm. I'm definitely going to check out that infographic.
Yeah, if you want to see that infographic.
I'm not quite sure, what mine is, so I'm definitely going to check it out and see, what.
It sounds like from what you describe, you're probably a bit of quadrant 2, but maybe not extreme.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oscar the Grouch was my favorite character growing up on Sesame Street, so what does that say about me?
I don't know, because I never watched Sesame Street.
Oh, really? Oh, he lived in a trash can and used to sing songs about loving trash, and, So.
I think I'd relate to that character. That's funny.
He was also an extreme introvert and liked to keep people away, so.
Oh, I like that. I was pretty introverted, too.
Yeah.
All right, so you're helping me figure out my Sesame Street profile here.
Now, Bonnie,
I guess I'd have to check out Sesame Street and see if there's a correlation between Sesame Street profile and organizing profile.
Yeah, I wonder if somebody's done like some type of psychological profile on your favorite Sesame Street character, but organizing would be fun.
Well, I've done a profile of characters, which I haven't yet introduced to the world, but it's various characters. I don't call them psychological as much as kind of archetypes of characters that can take over your brain at different times.
Okay.
So there's one I call Impatient Iggy, and I would say Impatient Iggy takes over my brain if I look at a messy space and I, think, I really should organize it. And I'm going, I don't feel like doing that. I don't have any patience to organize my office because I could just live with it messy and not care.
I could too sometimes, depending on what it is. So I feel great talking to you, and you're admitting that. I'm like, because not everyone you can admit to say, okay, I'm kind of okay with my place being a mess. Other people are like, no, you're not. You're just pretending to be. That's just like a cop-out. But no. I want to thank you for sharing that. And sometimes I am okay.
Yeah. Well, I'm not thrilled to have other people see my place when it's a mess. I do try to, clean up if people are coming over. But basically, my friends know I'm a mess. So it depends on the person. Certainly professionally, if someone were coming over, I would clean it up.
And
I look
when I was married, when I leave my house. I do my hair and makeup and look presentable when I go out. So that's,
Yeah. Well, a lot of times that's true. What's interesting about the people that are the opposite of us, the ones that have the organized nature, is they can very often appear absolutely meticulous and really keep up appearances at work. And very often they'll have kind of corporate type of jobs or straight jobs. But then and they don't let anyone in their home.
Yep.
And so I've had people that have gone without needed repairs because they were so ashamed of their clutter at home that they wouldn't let a worker into the house.
Yep.
Yeah, so that's what can really kind of cause them some angst and problems. But if people met them in a career context, they'd have no idea that person is messy.
Right. Now, Bonnie, we're getting towards the end of today's show. Is there anything in relationship to your organizing profile that you haven't shared today or you feel is important to bring up? And can you definitely give out your contact information and the website address for that infographic again?
Okay. Let's see. Something to share about the organizing profile. I'll say that I go a little bit further in my thinking on that there's even an organizing style that people have. So some people may, if they were filing, want just a few folders with a lot of stuff in them, and others might want a separate folder for every single little subtopic. And you can apply that to cans on a shelf or just the way you organize just about everything in your home as well. So there's sort of a style in addition to a profile. Contact information. Well, my name again, Bonnie Mincu, M-I-N-C-U, at thrivewithadd.com. And to get this infographic, thrivewithadd.com/organizing profile. And I am coming up with my big training course membership program called productivitypathfinder.com by the time people hear this, it could be up or maybe coming in just a few months, depending on when you hear this. But in 2017, it's in the beta test right now. So
thank you so much.
That's where I teach everything.
Wow. Sounds like it's going to be a great program. Definitely make sure you guys get on Bonnie's email list to check it out. I mean, you have so many great things, and you've been around, I think, longer than I have, or just around the same time for close to 20 years.
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah, definitely. If you have not checked out Bonnie's website, check it out. She has great resources, and she's one of the pioneers in ADHD coaching and doing, online classes or webinars or teleclasses, I think is what they were actually called.
Yeah, it's teleclasses.
Yeah, but definitely check her out. And Bonnie, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to come on ADHD Support Talk Radio and talk about this life-changing topic. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And be sure to stop by ADHDSupportTalk.com to check out our new website and sign up for our email list. Thanks again, everyone.